I taught hundreds of violinists 8 habits that transform their playing. And today I'm gonna show you those habits you should do to go from playing the violin ordinary to playing the violin like a pro. And the first habit is stop correcting wrong notes. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but actually here is the truth. If you are repeating, for example, E on F sharp, each time you are correcting the notes, what happens is that you are not learning the right movement. Instead, what you are learning to do is putting first the finger maybe too low, and then moving it sideways to the right note. What I saw by a lot of students is that they will always then play this note too low first and then correct it. Too low, correct it, okay? That will become their way of playing this note. And of course, it doesn't sound well. So what you should do instead is stop correcting the notes and try to play the right note directly. That means that if your note is wrong, you hear it, then just repeat it and try to get to the right note directly. Don't correct. And here the goal is to play the right note 3 times in a row. So that in the future, every time this note comes, you will play it directly right. If you are playing for someone or in concert, of course you should correct the note. But when practicing, don't correct the note, play directly the right notes. Second habit is repeating is not practicing. What I see a lot of students do is that they will always repeat the same thing, the same piece, the same passage where they are having difficulties and think it's a way to improve it. They think they are practicing by repeating it. But the thing is, that's not practicing, because repeating don't necessarily improve things. What it does is that it automates them. And the problem is that every time you repeat something, if this thing is wrong, repeating it over and over again is not going to make it right. Repeating the wrong thing 10 times, it stays wrong. What happens is that you are now building bad reflexes. And of course, after every repetition, you have the feeling that it's becoming easier because you are automating playing this thing wrong every single time. So what you should do instead is use variations. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to practice a very easy scale, like, for example, this one here. Instead of just repeating it, and repeating it, what you could do, for example, very simple, would be to play it first in half notes, then in quarter note, and then in eighth note. What you should do too is, for example, playing 2 notes very fast, then making some pause. 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 Or 3 notes. Pause. And so on. What you could do too is to add some bowing variation. You could put 2 notes in a slur, in one bow. Or 4 notes. You could play it loud. You could play it very softly. And when you do that, what you're doing is practicing the same thing in different ways. And that's way more effective. And when you do that, you will see that not only you will learn the original variation you try to learn way faster and way effectiver, but at the same time, you will be later on able to play anything in any piece. Another example, if you wanted to master a piece and you had difficulties with one small part of it, way better than just repeating it over and over would be to use, for example, the 7 steps framework from the Violin Pyramid Method. Okay, that's a framework to master every piece. And I will not go over every single step, but the most important for you will be step 4 and step 5 that you can see here. So step 4, basically, that will be that instead of just repeating all the notes every time, you will first calibrate every single note. That means just playing every note only one time. Here is a small example with a very, very easy piece. And like you say, what you want to do first is to play every note only once so that you can master it. And the process will be the same with Paganini, it doesn't matter, it's the same. And that means what you want to do first is just to calibrate every note that's coming in. Okay, here we have 3 notes only, and you want to be sure that those are the right ones. Then the F sharp. And then we have done that, we want to automate the notes. For that we will play every note only once, so that it will look like that. That means for these songs, it will sound like this. Okay, I'm playing every note only once, very slowly. And then I will just increase the speed to quarter note, to eighth note. Okay, and I could do there 2 more variations to master the left hand first. And then I will do the same for the bow. So that will be step 5, the goal is just to master the bow. And for that, basically, we'll play the piece on open strings first. So if you go back to this example, that will mean I just play the right rhythm on the right strings. That will look like this. And so on. So now let's go to habit 3. Never practice with vibrato. That's a mistake I see a lot of advanced players do, is that they don't even see that they are doing it, but they are practicing. And they have always like some very small vibrato. It's not even really like a real vibrato, it's just some movement in the left hand. The problem is that when you're doing that, you are just hiding problems and you are not improving anything. Because when you are playing, it makes it more difficult to hear the intonation and what you are doing with the bow. So what you want to do instead is to always practice without vibrato so that you can have a perfect intonation. That means really nothing. So when I play like that, I can really hear everything. Can directly hear if a note is a little bit too high or too low, but if I have this small vibrato, it's difficult. At the same time, when people play with vibrato, they always focus all their attention on the vibrato to make the piece sound more musical. And the problem is that actually the best way to make something sound better, more beautifully, is not the vibrato, but phrasing with the bow. That means that, let's take a small piece. If I play it all with vibrato, but do nothing with the bow, it sounds very boring. If instead I'm phrasing with the bow, but not doing any vibrato, it will sound like that. Sounds actually way better, and I didn't use any vibrato. It's because the most important thing for musicality is phrasing with the bow. And the best way to develop that is to practice your pieces without vibrato so that you can entirely focus on the bow. And then, in the second phase, you should add the vibrato. But here, too, what is interesting is that actually the vibrato should just follow what the bow do. Okay, it's not just I'm adding some vibrato that's always the same, no matter what I do. Instead, is with the bow, I'm giving the direction, when I'm playing soft, loudly, crescendo, everything, and my vibrato will match it. When I play softer, I will have a softer vibrato. When I make a crescendo, I will have more vibrato. But to find that, I need first to learn how I will phrase my piece. And by the way, we just finished publishing a free online masterclass. So if you want to learn to play the violin beautifully, just click on the link below. Then habit 4 is 15 minutes is better than 1 hour. A mistake I see a lot of people do is that they will play always too long at a time. And the thing is that here what's really important is to understand of learning and how memory works. For that, I will refer first to what Günther Karsten, one of my mentors, said about memory, and he won himself very often the World Memory Championships. Basically, there is certain time interval when you need to repeat what you learned so that it stay in your memory. And those time interval are 2 hours after you learned something, then 24 hours later, then 1 week later, 1 month later, and then 6 months later. And if you miss one of those time slots, what happens is that you will start really forgetting completely what you learned and will need to start it again from the beginning. In opposite, if you always repeat what you learn on those exact time, then it will be always fresh in your mind and it will be really easy to remind it and build an automation with it. So now, if you practice one day 1 hour and then the next time 3 days or 2 days later, then you are missing 2 time slots. And because of that, you will need to learn again from the beginning what you practiced the first time. Instead, if you practice every day 15 minutes, it will stay fresh in your mind and you will always get a little bit farther, building on what you learned the day before. The second problem is that very often when someone practices 1 hour, they often stay stuck on one thing, just practicing the same over and over again, and don't really making any more progress on it. The reason why is because there is a limit on how much you can improve something on one day. Most of the learning happens actually at night. That means that during the day, you practice something, you learn to do it the right way, you repeat it a few times, but then it will not be automated. That's only after you slept that you will build the right connection and that on the next day, it will be partly automated. And if you instead just repeat it the same day, you will not really go further, you will just start playing always a little bit worse. That's the reason I really recommend to stick to the 15-minute rules. That means practice only in 15 minutes block, where you practice one thing for only 15 minutes, then the next 15 minutes, something else, and trying to practice minimum for 15 minutes every day. Habit 5. Let the fingers on the string. That's really the easiest way to improve your intonation. I see a lot of people play like that. But you will always move the finger in all directions. That's very ineffective and that's very difficult like that to have a good intonation. And that limits your ability to play fast with accuracy. So this is, for example, a 1 octave scale. And here, like you can see, when you go up, you should let the fingers on the strings. And that's a general rule. When you basically go up, you will always let all previous fingers on the strings. That's very important. I don't play this like that. I play it like that. Because later on I will need again the fingers I just play. Maybe I will need to play. And when my fingers are already there, then I just need to remove the fingers like the third or the fourth, and then I can play my first or second. I don't need to put again the finger on the string. At the same time, it's very difficult to lift a finger and at the same time put a finger on the string, like that. It's way easier if my second finger stays on the string. Then, when you have string crossing, here is the same problem. Actually, I think that most problem with string crossings because they lift their finger. So basically, during a string crossing, you always want to have a finger that stays on the string during the string crossing. So here is a good example of it in this, that's a scale of third. I want to let my third finger on the string to play the first finger, because I will use it as anchor point. Actually, there is two ways to do that. What I could do too is just put the first finger already here. But the thing is that I want always to prepare my string crossing. I never want to do this. Because that's the same as what I show you on one string. I don't want to lift a finger and put a finger on the string at the same time. It's not very effective. So here I could do put my first finger on the string when I'm playing the third finger. Or I could just let the third finger on the string. In the meantime, so that I use it as an anchor point. Habit 6, close your eyes. So here it's important to understand that to play the violin beautifully, there is really 5 pillars you need to master. That's really the basic of the Violin Pyramid Method. And here you can see what they are. So there is the sound. Does the sound sound beautiful? The intonation. Are you hitting the right note with the left hand? Are you playing the right rhythm? Are you staying in a stable tempo? And are you playing with musicality? And if you look at all those 5 pillars, it becomes clear that you can't control them with the eyes. Okay, you can't control your tempo, the rhythm, or the sound quality, or even the musicality by looking with your eyes at what you are playing. The only thing you can control more or less is the intonation, but not effectively too. And the problem with our senses is that how it works is that the more you focus on one sense, the less you use your other senses. That means that if I'm looking the whole time with my eyes at my finger, especially if you are, for example, using stickers or anything on the fingerboard to show you where to put your fingers, then what you're doing is that you are not listening. You are not perceiving to what you are doing. So what you want to do instead is really, instead of looking at what you are doing, you want to listen. Because when we can listen at every one of those points: the sound quality, the intonation, rhythm, tempo, and musicality. And to help us manage everything, we want to focus on our perception. That means feeling where is my arm, where are my fingers, are they decontract, so really feeling those things. And the best way to improve that is just to practice with closed eyes. Because when you do that, you hear everything. For example, now it was not very good. When I close my eyes, it's very easy to hear it. And then I can really feel where are my finger, how much I'm pressing on the strings, every single thing. And by the way, that's the reason why there is actually a lot of blind people that can see but still can play the violin perfectly. They don't have any problems at all. They could play the violin like the best violinists in the world. In opposite, these people that can't hear, they can't play the violin well. Now, habit 7 is record yourself. So here I have a question for you. What was your reaction the first time you listened to your voice? Maybe because you left some message or you needed to record something on your phone. And often people are, oh, that's my voice. That's because our perception of how we sound is often very wrong. And when you play the violin, that's exactly the same. And actually that's interesting because when new students book first a free consultation with us for the Violinacademy, we always ask them to record themselves so that we can see how is they playing. And then what we always hear is that when they listen at them on recording, they was really like shocked to how it sounded or what they were doing. Okay, they just understood directly a lot of things and it was very different than what they thought. And that's the reason the best way to really hear what you are doing and really see what you are doing is just to record yourself, best in a video, and then analyze it. And now let us speak about habit 8. Practicing with high standards. That's one of the most important things. Here, if I analyze all that my best teachers had in common and all that my worst teachers had in common, it was probably this one thing. But my best teacher, they had really high standards. That means that when I played, always interrupt me and say, okay, your sound was not good, your intonation was not good enough, why is this not better? They had very high standards. And my worst teacher, they will just listen, they will don't say a word, and at the end they say, okay, let's do the next piece. That's a waste of time. And the next thing is that every time I teach one-to-one a student, this is actually mostly the one thing they could improve. Because most of our students, they are already practicing very well, doing a lot of progress and so on, but always when I practice with them, I see, oh, actually, there is one thing they could really improve. It's just like which standards they are by practicing. Here, what I concretely mean and how you could do it. What it means is that when you practice, if you hear that something is not sounding beautiful, that means that you are doing something wrong. And what it means is that you should directly try to improve it. And instead, what most people do is that they just continue playing. Okay? So don't do that, stop and try to understand. Is that the sound quality? Was it my intonation? And then practice this one thing. Repeat it now. Because most people, instead, they hear that something is wrong, but they let it for later on. Or maybe they don't hear it because they are not really listening. They are maybe thinking at something else at the same time, or they are just focusing on playing the exercises. So what you want is the whole time to really listen attentively to everything you are doing, to verify everything, and then when something don't look as good as you want it to be, directly try to improve it. Don't wait for later.